wait, isn't there a recession coming? And aren't you like almost 50? Like, shouldn't you be planning and worrying about your retirement at this age? Yeah, I should. Exactly. And the reasons I quit this time around, well, we're gonna have to travel back in time to the first time when I quit. You see, back then, the first time I quit, it was for the usual reasons. I didn't like the rat race, I didn't understand what the point of the money was, I didn't feel like I had purpose in life, the usual stuff. And so I quit my job back then. And I was in New York City, and it also was a very good job and company. In fact, I was working at Bridgewater Associates under Ray Dalio, which is like one of the top hedge funds of the world. And it was not easy to walk away from that, but I did. Yeah, I was a little disillusioned. I didn't know what the point of life was besides just making more and more cash. Was that really it for all the stress? Now, some people, when they reach that point in their lives, they call uncle. So they'll ditch out and go backpacking for a few years, or move to an island and go surfing for a couple of years.
We're so out there.
Or do what I did, which is take all your money and go do a startup. And that's what I did. So I took all of our money and put it all into this startup I was doing, which had a lot of purpose. You know what the purpose was? Well, there was these companies like Facebook and Google that were taking all your data and selling it behind your back for like billions of dollars. Yeah, I didn't think that was right. So, stupid me, I said, I'm going to go against that and disrupt that model. It ended up getting me banned from Apple and basically from Silicon Valley, which we moved to from New York City to do this startup. Because, if you're going to do a startup in tech, you got to go to Silicon Valley. Silicon Alley ain't going to cut it. And what happened was, I got banned, dude. I still have the email from Apple where they basically invoked some clause in their agreement that you sign when you create a developer account and kick me out. And so at that stage, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was kind of lost. And the question was, do I do another startup? Or do I go back to corporate America? Or what am I going to do? And couldn't answer that question until I realized I was asking the wrong question. And that the right question was, where are you going to do what? Not what are you going to do? And so when the where came in, well, it was a process of elimination. And then, Singapore came into the picture. And I like Singapore. I was born and raised in the Philippines. I'm Korean though, but I grew up in the Philippines, and it was close to that part of the world where my parents are. And, it's English speaking, a developed economy. And the most important point was I thought there was going to be a lot of growth for startups and entrepreneurship in the next decade or so. And that's kind of what happened here. And the whole point of coming here was to help startup founders in this part of the world succeed in their efforts to change the world and change systems. And through their success, I felt that I was contributing to the development of the region. And that still gave me that purpose. In fact, it was something I thought I was good at doing. People tell me that I was good at doing, so I continue to do it. And that's what I did for quite some time here in Singapore. But this time is different because I already went through that whole phase of not doing it for the reasons of money anymore, or a big title under your belt, or climbing the corporate ladder and sticking it to, the colleagues that didn't get up there. I mean, that's definitely not what I did when I came here, and not the motivating factor of all the work that I did. And so what would lead me to quit now? Well, Father Time is creeping up to me, and when you're right around the corner of the 50s, you don't just see it. Yeah, I tell you, you feel it. I started looking at what life was beyond purpose and all this. Was what in fact is life when the time actually comes to peace out from here? And I started thinking about that. And you know what? I made this huge realization. I'm telling all these startup founders, do their startups, get successful, get their funding rounds, so on and so forth. But you know what I did was I asked the question, hey, Sang, what's the most important startup that anybody could ever create? And you know what the answer was after many, many months of introspection and asking? It was yourself. It was starting yourself up. Now that is the most important startup of all time. But most people don't realize this. I didn't realize it until recently. And so the moment I made that realization, it's like, hey man, I need to really help everybody start themselves up in their own startup, which is themselves, not all these other startup founders. I mean, yes, they need to succeed and change the world and do all that, but every single one of us needs to start ourselves up. And I realized that in order to do that, I can't do it at my day job, right? I mean, my day job, look, I worked for some really great companies while I was here at Singapore. I worked at GIC, I worked at Temasek. These entities have billions of dollars, right? And we were able to deploy some of that into some startups to make them succeed. And, you know, that was a great experience, and I'm forever going to cherish that part of my life as something that I did to help contribute to the growth of the ecosystem here and the growth of change to this region for many, many millions of people. But how am I going to get, because, you know, it's not cash that's going to get you to start yourself up. And so then I made the recognition that it's not these companies that I'm working at isn't going to really help people start themselves up. And what I realized that what's really needed to help people start themselves up is actually a method and ideology from which to get the fuel from which to run into their engine and actually turn it on and start themselves up. And that's not something I'm going to find at some company, right? It's not like cash or some capital injection that's going to do it. It's actually enlightenment and understanding of a new way of being. And so that is the reason why I'm quitting my job. It's to devote my time for the remainder of whatever time is left for me here on this planet to help people get to that mode and to help them understand along with me. I'm part of this journey too. It's not like I'm guru and I know everything and all that. I mean, I'm just maybe started a little earlier, right? And I maybe have some ideas that, because I've been thinking through, I want to share with you. But ultimately, that's what I want to do.